Hey Nintendo fans and collectors, this is Lithium017 from my channel, Nintendo Collecting 101, bringing you collecting tip number 75, organizing your collection. After you bought a few consoles, a few games, controllers, accessories, posters, or anything else, you're going to want to probably organize it in a way that kind of makes sense to you. I'm not saying to do exactly what I do, obviously everyone should be different, but when I organize my collection, I do it in a way that logically makes sense to me, and I do have an end game, let's say, of my room, of where I want to get it eventually. So I always have that kind of idea in mind. First and foremost, though, I just ask myself, what means the most to me in collecting, and what do I have a lot of that looks really cool to display? So the answer for me was Nintendo 64, because it was my favorite console growing up. So that's what made me decide to have this entire Nintendo 64 wall. Maybe you don't have that much room, or maybe you really like GameCube, or PlayStation, or Xbox, or whatever it is. So I decided to have this entire wall dedicated to just Nintendo 64. There are only the 16 worldwide consoles only, that's a heck of a lot right there. I do have other boxes below them, and there's more room on the side, so I could have very easily put almost all my boxed Nintendo consoles here, because there are 25 spots in those little cubbies, and there's probably 5 spots on top. So there's room here for 30 different boxed consoles, but I decided to go through with only Nintendo 64, with the controllers and accessories and everything. If you have any display cabinets, you need to decide what goes in that. I decided to pull the Nintendo 64 consoles out of the box, and with the controllers as well and some other items, and display them like that. Posters, you're going to need to decide, do you want to frame them? Do you want to have them mounted on some sort of hard backing? Do you want to simply just put them up with tacks or with tape? The more effort you put into it and the more money you do put into it, usually the better it will look. Over here, you see I have my GameCube and Wii, and possibly Wii U shelf. Obviously, I'm going to run out of room. So this one's all the way over here, and because I do have quite a few GameCubes and quite a few Wiis, it needed its own shelf, and I wanted to keep them together. But eventually, I think this shelf will just strictly be GameCube, so I kind of have that in mind, and I'm going to need to expand a little bit to put the Wii stuff elsewhere. And then, likewise, I took out the consoles and the controllers for GameCube and the Wii ones as well. If you're wondering where the Wii consoles are, I did put them back below the TVs, and I'm using them, and one friend has another one, actually. In addition to that, in your room, you may want to organize it such that you're highlighting certain things. Because this is the year of Luigi, I decided to highlight Luigi on top of this TV and below the TV and everything like that. So you might have room in your collection to highlight certain items or genre or certain games. I have seen before people maybe put up along the top of their wall every single Mario game, every single main Mario game, or every Zelda game, or every Super Nintendo game that's their favorite. You can do whatever you want. In collecting tips coming up, I will talk specifically about displaying consoles, controllers, accessories, and things like that. That will be the next few collecting tips. But you just need to make the decision yourself. Do you want to display your collection maybe by console, as I did here? And if you're displaying maybe by console, perhaps you're starting with the NES, and then the SNES. Maybe all of your games are with your consoles and your controllers, whereas I tend to keep my games separate. And I don't even really have a section for the NES, which is up there, or the Super NES, which is over there. You might want to have sections for those. You might want to keep the games and the consoles all together. Maybe you don't want to do that at all. Maybe you just want to separate your games by genre. If you really like first-person shooters, or you like platformers, and you put them all together, maybe by year, you could buy them and maybe just combine them. Kind of what I'm doing here with accessories, consoles, controllers, and everything I see fit. So put a lot of effort, I think, into organizing it and displaying it. It does make it look, usually, I try and make it look as best as possible. It just spices it up a bit. Put some personality into your organization. Because I'm maybe a little OCD and I hate losing things, which does happen every once in a while, I kind of put everything in a certain order, and I kind of put everything alphabetical or by console. It doesn't have to make sense to everyone, as long as it makes sense to you and as long as it looks good. I think that's really the key. Thank you very much for watching. That was collecting tip number 75, organizing your collection. Feel free to fill that like bucket, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, because the links are in the underbar, and remember, as always, game on.